Mucho cuidado, señores, porque la muerte anda lista. En el panteón de Dolores ya nos tiene una cosita. Para los compositores y uno que otro periodista, licenciados y doctores, todos están en la lista. Que reganita calaca, cuando menos lo pensamos, nos hace tirar la plata y yo me la escapé una vez, pero por poco y me atrapa.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so glad that you're here and that you've taken the time out to listen to our guest speaker. I'd like to thank the creator for this gathering, for allowing us to come together as friends, for the leadership of M.E.Ch.A for hosting this event, and for our wonderful guest speaker, Mr. Javier Gomez, also known as Mr. G. That we may come together with open hearts and open minds to have a better understanding of Dia de los Muertos. We thank you for this time. We thank you for the information that our ancestors have passed down from generation to generation to share with you all. Thank you again. M.E.Ch.A.
Hi, I'm Lisa Marie Ruiz, the president of M.E.Ch.A. I want to welcome you all today, here today in lieu of a regular M.E.Ch.A meeting. We're having a presentation by Javier Gomez on Dia de los Muertos. Mr. Javier Gomez is the founder and artistic director of the M.E.Ch.A Cultural Arts Center, the Ventura County Multicultural Arts Council, M.E.Ch.A Teatro M.E.Ch.A, El Instituto M.E.Ch.A, and for more than 13 years, he has served as the artistic director for the Regional Ballet Folklorico. Mr. Gomez was awarded the Latino Arts Network of California Maestros Award for his lifetime achievement in support of community arts in November 2015. Javier is a longtime local leader in arts and culture, an educator and community catalyst. He has dedicated his life and his heart to presenting, producing, and promoting Chicano art, education, and culture. Thank you. Javier.
Well, buenas tardes a todos ustedes. I just wanted to share with you that this the Dia de los Muertos is fast and pronto approaching, and I just wanted to share my family altar that we have. And this year, our family has created 2 altars. One is for family, and the other one is for our military brothers and sisters who have served in the military. And so it is great with great honor that I'm here with you to celebrate one of the most important celebrations that I consider that needs to continue being perpetuated and continue to be honored, because it's a celebration that really connects us to our heritage in all aspects. Quinotlamati no yolo ninkaki ninkuika, niita inshoshi, maka incuetlavia intlaltipac. Hasta ahora lo entiende mi corazón, oigo un canto, veo una flor que jamás nunca se marchita el flor y canto de la tierra. Since the beginning of time, El Día de los Muertos has been widely celebrated throughout the valleys of Mexico. El Día de los Muertos became a vital ceremony after a young boy by the name of M.E.Ch.A was given the task to journey to the Forbidden Valley in the underworld, Mictlán, the land where the dead rest. His quest was to retrieve the bones of humanity, a final task in which he would prove himself worthy, his rite of passage into manhood. Upon fulfilling that duty, he would then earn the title and honor of being blessed as an adult with the name of Quetzalcoatl. His success in retrieving the bones would illustrate to their creator how the living honored their dead spirits. Henceforth, Xiacatupiltzin went onto the underworld to become Quetzalcoatl, a great leader, teacher, and creator of many wonderful things. Our ancestral customs, El Dia de los Muertos was born thanks to him, where two very important days out of the year we are celebrating. We live and we rejoice. The spirits of our loved ones who have long since deceased, as we dance, sing, pray, mourn, and laugh together. And as we annually continue to hold the celebration of Dia de los Muertos around the world, we continue to welcome the spirits of the dead to walk among us on November 1st and 2nd, on El Dia de los Muertos. However, on occasions, the spirits of the deceased, under the soul of their descendants, as they are reborn in their loved ones, who emulate their ancestors' attributes, mannerisms, visions, and become one with them, which is prohibited by the great creator, Azúcar Calaveras. El Dia de los Muertos is a tremendous and vital celebration that in its origin had the name of Inca Micael Huit, which translated meant the celebration of the dead. But when this celebration is about 5,000 years old, it is the most oldest celebration that continues to exist, and it stood the test of time when the Spaniards tried to erase it. Los conquistadores that didn't believe in any indigenous thoughts, didn't believe in respecting the human rights of others, and in the manner in which they sang, and they try to eradicate their culture, their traditions, their language, their identity by changing their names from if his name was Cuauhtlatoa, his name became Eagle Boy, or in English, but in Spanish, El Águila. So we have even existed to be conquered by a new generation where we speak English instead of Spanish, or instead of Nahuatl, where people have forgotten their language. So El Dia de los Muertos is a celebration to honor our loved ones and to rejoice with them and give them a place in our hearts. And the celebration itself in the United States goes back to the early 70s, where it really took root and hold in the United States. It had been forgotten as part of the master plan of the Españoles. It was forgotten in Mexico, part of the master plan of the Españoles, to eradicate, to burn the codices, the books, and all the things that related to Dia de los Muertos. They even stole the idea of music, or of the sonaja sounding, of the huehuet pounding. It was all destroyed and suppressed to the indigenous people, and all the customs that be related to indigenous thought was part of the master plan that the Spaniards had in eradicating everything that was of the soul and spirit of the Indios, except the nopal that we wear in our face. They couldn't erase that, but they could erase our soul, they can erase our mind, they could erase our language, they can erase our names. And so being erased, many things began to happen throughout Mexico. So El Dia de los Muertos symbolizes a period of rebirth, because when the indigenous people used to celebrate it, they used to celebrate Dia de los Muertos back in the early period of the harvest season, which was around August, September, October, and then culminating around November. And so in those periods, it lasted that long period to celebrate this celebration. It took root when the great ball game began to be played. The great ball game, if you ever have heard of the Aztec Mayan ball game, it's really a fertility rite. It's a ritual that is a predecessor to soccer, of what we see today, but very different. The whole concept of playing the great ball game was a competition between the living world and the underworld. Los niños that were playing on the surface were creating such havoc and chaos to the underworld that the underworld wanted to destroy it as well. And so they invited the twins, the Aztec twins, to go play with them, and they somehow killed the kids, and it was forgotten, but then it was reborn again. And it is part of the creation story of what makes up Las Americas, what makes up the indigenous people of Mexico. And in so doing, the creation of playing the ball game is this fertility rite, where men who play the game, and if you look very closely, if you look at the stone ring that is on the walls, it's a stone ring. And what are they hitting? They're hitting this little tiny ball with their hips. They can't use their hands. They have to hit it with their hips, which makes it very difficult to get the ball through, which is the act of sexuality, of the sexual intercourse between man and woman. That little ball is the sperm looking for the ovary egg, the ovary in which to penetrate, to go in and to impregnate. And the reason why the game was played on in the ball court was underneath. The ball court was where the underworld was at. Why is it 9 months? Because it's part of the 9-month period in which that little ball that went in goes into the womb of Mother Earth. Like when we plant seeds, when we plant a seed on the earth, it goes into the womb of Mother Earth. And what is Mother Earth is gives life to that seed, so that it can sprout forth and grow above the surface and blossom like a flower. Humanity is the flower. We, you, I, are the flower of the seed that was planted. So El Dia de los Muertos is a metaphor for the creation of life and rebirth. Why was it celebrated in the harvest season? Because we give thanks to the bounty of food that Mother Earth has given us to nourish. And we in turn eat of her substance, and we return it back when we die, when we go back into the earth to give life again, to be reborn again. So when we celebrate El Dia de los Muertos, is to really connect with Mother Earth, connect with the surface, with the heavens, and with the sun, and all the elements that give us life. And so Dia de los Muertos started off as that celebration. And so the an Aztec myth or an Aztec legend that was told was that M.E.Ch.A, a young warrior, Aztec warrior, played the ball game. And when he played the game itself lasted a week to 2 weeks or a month sometimes, because of the high level of difficulty. The crowds that were in attendance would gamble away their riches and their possessions, even their livelihood, from being free to becoming slaves to others. And this game was a very important game, but it was a game of chance, because whoever was the victor was given unlimited powers and wealth and whatever he wanted. And so we have these rival tribes competing against each other. And so when M.E.Ch.A won in this particular game, and when he was presented before the elders said, "Mira, the creator needs something to happen on the surface. Life has to be born again. And so we need you to go to Mictlán, to meet with Mictlán Tecuhtli, the Lord of the dead, Mictlán Cihuat, the mistress of the dead. Talk to them and tell them that you came to retrieve the bones of humanity, to bring them onto the surface, and for that period of time, so that we can celebrate life and rejoice in the new humanity that we have." And so when M.E.Ch.A went to Mictlán, he went with his Nahuali. A Nahuali is the other self of someone. It's the other spirit of a person. In some terms in Mexico, a Nahual is an animal spirit. It's related to an animal spirit. But in this case, it's related to your other self, a person that is reflection of you. As a man, a female. So his Nahuali Xochiquetzal accompanied him to Mictlán. And when they went to Mictlán, they knocked on the doors of Mictlán, and they asked the gatekeepers, "Hey, we came to retrieve the bones of mankind." And the gatekeeper said, "Oh, Simón, entren, entren. Ah, pero wait a minute. What privileges do you have?" And Shakatupilsen said, "Well, I won the ball game. I'm the champion of the ball game." And so he's walking into the Panteon. He was being allowed to walk in to meet with M.E.Ch.A and M.E.Ch.A. And Xochitl follows right behind him. And the guards stop her at the gate and say, "Wait a minute. You don't look like a male. You don't look like a guerrillero. You don't look like a ball player. Usted tiene que esperar afuera. Only a few can enter this precious place. Either you're dead or you're the winner of the sacred ball game." And so she was this kind of like mad and says, oh, I guess this is a male thing, huh? And Zacatopilcina assures her, "Mira, I'm okay. I'll take care of it. Just wait at El Tepeyac, where the animals, where the snakes and the birds and the quetzal birds are at. Wait by the hill." And so he went in and he met Mictlantecutli, and they were so happy to see him. And they said, "What makes you so different than all the other previous individuals who have come to retrieve the bones of mankind? What can you do that's so important?" And he says, "Well, I won the ball game." And he goes, "Oh, bravo, bravo, go Chivas, go Chivas." They were all excited. And when Quetzalcoatl told him, it says, "Oh, okay." But Mictlantecutli said, "Wait a minute, muchacho. We can't just give you the bones because you're a human. You're mortal. We can't just give them to you. And so, but you have to answer something. You have to solve a riddle for us." And the riddle that he had to solve was Mictlantecutli quickly brought him a concha and said, "Hey, mira, mijo, it's been dead in this panteón. In this place, it's been dead silence. Ya estoy harto de todo el silencio. I wanna rattle my bones. I wanna sing a song. I wanna jump in for joy." And so they gave him a concha. And Mictlantecutli, his señora, he said, "Órale, muchacho, why are you giving him a concha? Why a concha? That's too easy." And Zacatopilcin takes it and he walks away, and both them are arguing about why he took the lead, and she didn't get to say something. So he goes out wandering into the panteon, and he sits on a tombstone, and he starts looking at the concha, puts it next to his ear. He hears the sound of music, sound of the ocean and the wind blowing. But he says, I don't think that's too easy. There's something more that has to be done with this concha. And he starts thinking, and he goes, "Hey Siri, can you help me out?" He calls Siri from the cosmos, and Siri goes, "I'm sorry, I don't see that contact in your network connections. I'm sorry, but I can't help you. And so he's despondent. He's sitting there, and he begins to chillar. He goes, "Ay, amado, ¿me puedes ayudar? Oh, es Quetzal, she could have solved this riddle for me." And at that time, some hormigas see him. And these hormigas are part of a creation story who discovered the corn that fed humanity and helped nourish mankind. And so the ants see them. "Oh, tú eres nuestro amigo." And there's these three ants started helping. And they said, we can help you out. "So what's the problem, mijo? What's the problem, muchacho?" And he tells them he has to make music with this thing. And one of the ants goes, "Oh, mira, pásamelo, let me have it." Gets the concha, and he calls his other two ant brothers. "Hey, brothers, come on over here. Mira, let's help them out." And they start munching on the concha. And then finally they give it back to him. "Mira, okay, Zacatopilcin, here it is. Now go ahead, haz algo." And he looks at it and he goes, "Man, you left it all dusty. It's got a bunch of dust all over it." And one of the ants says, "Pues muchacho, soplale, échale ganas." So he gets it in, and where they bored a hole at the concha, he blows into it, and music was created. That sound of the concha blaring throughout Mictlán caused the sonajas that were close by to rattle, caused the huehue drums to pound. And together they created this glorious sound that it even reached the place where M.E.Ch.A, M.E.Ch.A, Siwa were having their café, their chocolate with cocoa, and so they go, oh, híjole, ¿qué pasó? And so everybody gets all excited, and he goes back inside and he presents it to the lords. Aquí está su música. Is that what you wanted? And M.E.Ch.A gets overexcited. Ah, you go, Chivas, you did it. I knew you were the middle one. You're the man. You're the man. And so he quickly hands them a bag of bones, and he takes them. And M.E.Ch.A see what it goes. You give him all the huesos. We don't have anybody left over in the panteon. What's going on? And so he runs, runs out, all excited. He's so excited. Lo hice. And he's carrying this bag of bones, and all of a sudden he trips and falls and breaks all the bones. And he drops to his knees and begins to cry. And he goes, ay, Quetzal, Xochitl Quetzal, ¿qué voy a hacer? And Xochitl Quetzal, his Nahuali, comes over and sees him and says, ¿por qué chillas, muchacho? Ay, qué chillón eres. And so she drops to her knees, pulls out her grandmother's molcajete that was handed down to her mother, and her mother gave it to her. And she puts it on the floor, on the ground, on Mother Earth, and she says, pásame los huesos. She starts gathering the bones and starts grinding them. And Zacatopilsin freaks out. It goes, ¿qué le estás haciendo? What are you doing? Le estás regando, man. The creators are going to get upset with me. And the lords here in the Panteon are going to prevent us from ever entering the Panteon because we destroyed the bones. I can Sally, you're blowing it. You're blowing it. Says, ay, muchacho, cállate. When she's grinding, and she notices that the bones are grinding into dust and they're kind of flying a little bit. So she thinks, I'm missing an ingredient. So she calls Zacatopilsin, ven para acá, muchacho. She pulls out her trusty obsidian knife and she cuts him. I won't tell you where he cut him, but there's a place that she cut him. And his blood spilled onto the molcajete. And she started mixing it together, where his blood mixed with the bones, and then she tasted it, goes, this tastes like mole. Oh, this is awesome. This is great. And Zacatopilsin freaks out again. Oh man, the elders are gonna kill us for this one. Ya lo regaste, Quetzali. And she says, ay, muchacho, tú eres muy escandaloso. They won't even know the difference. So they take the molcajete full of mole or the special sauce that they made, and they take it to the elders. The elders, the gods, they look at it. Oh, you brought us the food of the gods, and they rejoice. They taste it. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And Zacatopilsin looks at his Nahuali. Ay, lo hiciste, muchacha, lo hiciste. And she goes, woman power, ese woman power. And so Zacatopilsin became known as Quetzalcoatl. He was given the title and name of Quetzalcoatl. He didn't sacrifice human beings, as many people tend to believe that the Aztecs were bloodthirsty people. That red sauce that they created is a metaphor for the connection between life, which are the bones, blood, which is life. You bring them together and unite them. They united the two worlds, Mictlan and the heavens, to become one world. So on November 1st, actually it's longer, since August up to the end of the harvest season, it is a time when our loved ones are allowed to leave Mictlan, the land of the dead, to come and visit our loved ones who are on the earth, to be among us. And the way we do that is by the ofrendas, by the offerings we make. That molcajete was an offering, was an ofrenda that was being given to the gods so that we would rejoice. Now, the spirits eat of the fragrance of the molcajete. We, the humans, eat of the substance of the mole that is left over. We eat the leftovers The muertos eat the essence, the aromas. And so when we erect our altars, when we create an altar, we create it in the tiers and levels that represent the spirits in which etapa that they come. And it is believed that each one of us who has celebrates this the celebration, that when we invite our loved ones, our dead spirits, to come to visit us on the living world, that they're among us, and so they're all around us. And so when you put your altares in your homes, on your schools, or at the panteones, you're inviting our spirits to come back. And I'm so pleased and so honored that over the years that I've gone to Ventura College, there's altares there. And I know in the last altares, one of my good friends is there on the altar. His body, his soul has penetrated some of you, has gone into the soul of Rubicela because she's carrying the tradition. She's gone into the souls of Lisa. She's gone into the souls of all the people around you. But also, one of the unique things about El Dia de los Muertos is that we in itself connect with our loved ones that are so dear and close to us, that we sometimes forget who they are. And our elders look at us, and they look at a child and says, "Ay, híjole, man, that reminds me of my tío Ramiro. Él habla como él." Or he acts like him. Or like my uncles would always say, "Ay, híjole, my hermano Damián, he spoke just like like our father. Oyes, mamá, yo quiero un café bien tocado." And that's how my grandfather would always speak to my grandmother. And so they embody that. And I see that in the spirit of a lot of us. The road that I have followed and the things that I have done in life, I thank the Creator for allowing my grandfather to come into my soul, to be able to tell stories, to be able to champion causes that he would have championed, to make sure that we were doing the right things. We embody the spirit of Cesar Chavez in his legacy that he's left behind us. So when we put his altar, when we put his picture on our altar, I know he's on my picture, he's on my altar. And I honor him because of the fact that he's such a powerful individual, that's his personality is coming down into the souls and bodies of people. And so when we celebrate El Dia de los Muertos, it's our rebirth. There was a year in which I would rename some of our friends and change their names. Actually, it was all my students at the M.E.Ch.A Center. Told them, "Hey, we're going to change your names, man. We're going to find out who your spirit was before." And instead of you being Maria, you're Xochitl Quetzal, because you have her spirit. You have the spirit of the mother who teaches and nurtures and guides and provides wisdom and knowledge. You're Tlaloc, the rain god, who cares about the earth and makes sure that everything is watered and taken care of. You're the Tlamatini, the teacher of the face and heart, And so we give names. We are reborn in the name and the spirit of what we are, and again, it's part of our rite of passage. It's okay for us to be Javier, and then later on be called Tlaloc, because I bring rain and tears to my family. So, no, pero alegría, so we bring that spirit, we embody that. One year I had a whole bunch of filmmakers that were with me, and one of them, I named them Tlacuilolo, because he who paints the skies, he who paints the wind, they paint the wind, which is a film, a metaphor, a desfracismo, something that reflects an image. And so to celebrate El Dia de los Muertos is very deep. That's historical. The other core part is is the altars and the tiers of things that we have. I know that I don't know if we can pop up some one of the things of the PowerPoint that Rubicela. So this is a text that I wrote on Dia de los Muertos, and if you go maybe towards scroll down to, since you have it, scroll, keep on. Well, you can stop. Oh, okay. Yeah, keep on. I'll tell you when. There's an altar there that has a definition of a lot of different things. This is a text that I tell a story of that I just told to you about the Balgan sacrifice that are made, and the important role that we all play in life. And we're almost getting there. Okay. And so if anybody has ever wondered, okay, just a minute, you're about almost one more, right here, this one. In creating our altars, this is a symbol of the altar, of things that need to be put on the altar, from the 4 elements that we have to include in the altar. Our calaveras de azúcar, which is really, it's almost like a Catholic thing, because it's like the oyster that one eats when the priest gives it to you. It's the body of Christ, and that's the calaveras, like the body of Christ, the body of our soul. But in Mexico, we have a sense of humor. We put names on people's faces, on the sugar skulls. We decorate it with color. We give it life. We have the papel picado. The papel picado is really a very fragile paper that when it's hung, it only lasts for a little bit. Again, a metaphor for how sensitive and how vulnerable we are in life, that our lives are so vulnerable that at any moment we can fly with the wind and tear away. Our life will be torn. We have food that we put on the altar. Again, to me, Dia de los Muertos is Thanksgiving in Mexico, and in the Chicano, Mexicano, Mestizo, Indigena tradition, because it embodies the invitation to the dead to come and eat with us. It is the invitation for us as a family to invite our family members to come to our home and break bread, and friends to celebrate life, to give thanks. And to me, it's Thanksgiving because our dead spirits come from Mictlan hungry, and they thirst. And so when we put our food up in the altar, on our altars, it's something that they enjoy eating. And so they eat of the essence, the fragrance, the aromas that go into the winds, that goes into their souls. But then they leave behind the leftovers, which is a platillo of carne asada, or a platillo of mole, or a platillo of tamales, and all symbols. The tamales is also, again, another metaphor for humanity, and the corn husk and the masa, the whole essence of in the birth of creation. We put our pan de muerto on the altars. Again, the pan de muerto symbolizing different elements of life and what it means. And the symbolisms are there, as towards what it symbolizes: the teardrops, the circle of life of who we are as individuals. And then we put candles. Again, the candles burn, and the flickering of the candles is that it's a communication or connection to the wind, M.E.Ch.A, and the water that we put on there is Tlaloc. Again, for the thirst, to quench our thirst, for our loved ones who have passed on, but yet at the same time, we drink the rest of what is left on there. So, and as well as we put trinkets, things that people enjoyed in life, a juguete for children, like November 1st is Children's Day. November 2nd is for the adults. And so, then we also have on the altares sempoashoshis, the flowers of the dead. And the flowers of the dead are what illuminates the path to where muertos follow in order to get to their altares. And it's it's the light that helps us. And translated, it means the flower of the dead. It's la flor del muerto. One year I bought a whole bunch of flowers from one of the ranchers around here. He goes, ay muchacho, ¿por qué estás comprando tanta flor de senpuchoshis? Apestan, parecen como si están muertos. I said, wow, that's the reason. it's la flor del muerto, por eso huele así, como los muertos. And so people sometimes have forgotten what they mean and what relationship that it has. Obviously, our altares also are all filled with the cross mixing of Christianity with the indigena belief. Because when the Spaniards came in, they tried to eradicate and erase it. They moved it from August to November to coincide with their European customs of All Souls Day and All Saints Day. So we know that Dia de los Muertos, or the celebration of loved ones who have passed on, is common throughout all over the world. Everybody in some form or another has a way in which they celebrate and remember their loved ones who they lost. You know, obviously with us, the longer that we remember the memories of the people that we have on the altares, the longer that their life, their legacy lives in their families, in this generation, in this world. You know, so I mean, just like in the movie Coco, I was going to say Cuckoo, but Coco, it talks about we can't forget. We find a picture of a loved one who passed on, you know, and a personal note for me is that I'm blessed that 35 years ago, when I first started doing Dia de los Muertos, I was influenced by Los Angeles. When I used to go to Los Angeles's Self-Art Graphic Center, they're the first ones to recreate the celebration in the United States. And they opened the doors to me, where I started seeing that it allowed me to put my mother's picture on the altar. And to this day, siempre está aquí, siempre está aquí. She has never gone. She's always been present. She's been gone since I was 7 years old. I'm 21 right now, so go figure that one. 65 years ago. So it's something that is so vital and so important for us to remember our loved ones who died in birth, our loved ones who died in a crash, our loved ones who died in birth, I mean in wars, and our loved ones who we just lost through age and time. And so we remember them, and we look at them. So the altares are critical for all of us to have in our homes. When I first started teaching, I used to ask my students about Dia de los Muertos. Someone said, oh yeah, allá en México la practicábamos. Ya estamos en los Estados Unidos, ya no tenemos que hacer esas cosas. Ya no somos Mexicanos. So I share with you the importance of that. Dia de los Muertos is how we can connect with each other and again celebrate the struggles of life, from our homeless to our kids in cages who have died. You know, I mean, to honor them, to have the people who have been killed, to have an altar for George Floyd up on the stage. You know, is it only a Mexican thing? No, it's all of us. As the saying goes, Día 2 de noviembre, Día de los Fieles Difuntos. Sin la sentencia en el portal, todos juntos. Oh gran pueblo, ustedes se burlan de mí. Me mandan al diablo en cocoles de ajonjolí. Y yo a ustedes les pelo los dientes. Día 2 de noviembre, Día de los Fieles Difuntos. Que siga la fiesta en ultratumba. Any questions or Ruby? I
Yeah,
have more.
thank you so much. If it does, I haven't seen any questions in the chat, or if you would like, you can go ahead and participants can raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat, or you can just ask.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing. It was very vivid. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. Well, we do have a video. We have a little clip of an acto that I used to perform for Dia de los Muertos. Like I said, well, the other element of Dia de los Muertos for me was that when I came to live in Oxnard, one of my things was that I wanted to connect with different artists, different community leaders, different elected officials, and try to see how we can replant, rediscover, give rebirth to our cultural traditions. And one of the things that I did was that I used El Dia de los Muertos as an organizing tool, a cultural tool that our action from the teatro group that I had was that we were going to go to every city throughout Ventura County and create the celebration, bring the celebration to people, to work with the local artists, to work with the families, to do máscaras, do workshops on papel picado and sugar skulls. We've hit basically all the cities throughout Ventura County, from Piru to Oakview, to Oxnard, Port Hueneme, Santa Paula, Moore Park, El Rio, Oxnard, La Colonia, Ventura. Oh, the Ventura Avenue didn't want to let me go because they had money, and they said, "Mira, aquí tenemos dinero for you, Mr. Gomez. Come back. We'll give you money." And to let you know, the celebration has always been a free event that I've always sponsored and held for people. It's never been about money. It's about how we can plant seeds, because children need to be educated. We need to preserve our heritage and our roots through our cultural celebrations. And that was one of the tools that we did in the years that I did it. And thanks to Conejo Mountain, a cemetery that opened up its doors to me and said, "You have this panteon, Mr. Gomez, can you do it here?" And I said, "Simon, man, now we can jump on the actual graves and pound on the ground." And so when you see a danzante group dancing, when they're stomping on the ground, it's really a sembrador planting a seed in the ground and pushing the seed, the jaded seed, into the ground so it will blossom. And when you hear that concha blowing in the distance, it is Quetzalcoatl sounding the birth of mankind, the introduction of humanity, walking together with the dead. It is the opening, you know. And so there's no reason. I mean, there's no hidden motive why people want us to eradicate our culture, because they don't want us to know about those things. They don't want us to have strength and pride and dignity in our souls, you know. So they try to do what they've done to the Native Americans: squash their traditions, forbid them to wear their regalia in ceremonies, because they knew that they were practicing their bad habits, you know. So we know that when we preserve who we are, we preserve the history and the legacy of all of us. And then we can easily say, "Oh, me gusta ese nopal que miro en el espejo." So we gotta sing and dance.
We have a question. Question is, people that are familiar with Coco but are not familiar with any of the historical aspects of it, what parts of Coco hold truth and what parts do not?
Well, you know, I was really impressed by it, because one of my good friends, who was my mentor, Luis Valdez, was the voice of the grandfather in that movie, Coco. So if I knew that he was involved, I knew that tradition, culture, and all the significant elements that were found in the piece would be true to the word. And so I found it, you know, obviously it's a story that revolves, but it holds true to the legal foundation, because one of Teatro Campesinos' pieces that was called Los Vendidos is a piece that Luis Valdez created. And one of the last little message that he says at the very end of that acto was, we need to teach people to appreciate who we are. We need to have people across all cultural roots enjoy who we are. We want them to sing. We want them to dance. We want them to recite our poetry. We want them to eat our food, and we want to make them be Chicano. We want to convert them, and so they'll have a Chicano soul. So when they have a Chicano soul, then they'll understand who we are, and they'll be our supporters. And over the years, I've come across a lot of people of different ethnicities, inviting them into them. And when we show our corazón to other people, hopefully our humanity will disarm the hatred or the ignorance and racism that exists in their lives. And the reason I use the word en la Quech is for that profound reason, because en la Quech is, tú eres mi otro yo. Si yo te amo y respeto a mí, yo me amo y respeto a ti. Si yo te hago daño a ti, yo me hago daño a mí. So when you look at yourself and you look at others, that's the core, and that's the reason why it's there. Coco held its ground. You know, I saluted, I'm thankful. It's even like when Luis Valdez did La Bamba, you know. It's like when Richie Valens was told, "Hey, you can't put a Mexican song in an English rock and roll piece. Nobody's gonna like it." And Richie Valens said, "Chale, man, just trip out on it." And he did La Bamba. And so when La Bamba, the movie, came out, teaching at Haydock School, a lot of my students all of a sudden were all dancing to La Bamba, singing La Bamba. And I'm talking about my Black students and my white students, and they're pronouncing and speaking the forgotten languages. Viva La Bamba, viva La Bamba, viva La Bamba, in their own manner. And that, to me, is success. That's empowerment, and how we can transcend who we are and give equality to everybody, and have people see the beauty of who we are. And so some of those kids, those non-Chicano kids or non-Mexicano kids that are out in our community who went to Haydock were exposed to that. And so when they see me, "Hey, Mr. G, how you doing? Orale." They talk to me in that manner, and you're the chaos, Mr. Gomez. You know, so that's the beauty and the strength of why it's important for us to preserve and present before the whole body. And you look at Dia de los Muertos now. It's my brother called me from Michigan. He goes, "Hey, hermano, man, I followed you all these years, and look at it. You know what you've been doing. It's not commercial success, man. It's at Walmart. You go to Walmart, you find Dia de los Muertos. Even Barbie. My wife just got her Barbie doll, the white dress one. Last year we were trying to get the black dress one, and couldn't. It was out of stock. So you know, when it transcends to that level where our children can go to a store and buy a Barbie doll that looks like them and that feels like them and has their cultural roots and essence of who they are, we can tear down the hatred and elevate the love, which is in the kids. It's love.
We have another question. A student has asked that you've shared a lot of history, and we know that there's some history books that don't have the correct perspective. Do you recommend specific literature for those of us that want to know more about Dia de los Muertos?
Well, I would say my book, Mr. G's Battle Cry. I talk about all of that stuff, but that's the other part. We need writers. We need more people to become the writers to tell those stories. Right now, I'm working on a children's book that that has all of that. It's a legend of a 5-year-old child growing up in the middle of the 1400s, and at the rise of the Aztec civilization at the height. And it's a little boy. And I tailored him after my grandson, who was bouncing off the wall. He was so energetic, and I oh my goodness, this kid he was so inquisitive. He wanted to know about everything. Hey, Tata, what's that hand? Why is that hand moving like that? You know, oh, Tata, well, where's the sun go at night? Where does it sleep at? And so when my grandson was born, I had given him a name, and unfortunately at that time it was a difficult stage of my daughter's life that she was in. You know, she gave birth before getting married and all the good stuff, but. And so when they asked me, what's his name? I said, his name is M.E.Ch.A. So when he came out of the hospital, he came out with a different name. And so my first chapter that I wrote was, do you know where my name is at? And it's about this little boy in that period, in the Aztec period, 5 years old, looking for his name, can't find his name. Tata tells him, have you done your prayers? Have you spoken to the gods? And so he dances and he sings to the gods, and all of a sudden he looks down the pyramid. And down at the foot of the pyramid, he sees his name, and he runs down there and he jumps and hugs his name. And he goes, Sakatapisin, where did you go? And Sakatapisin tells him, our shadow didn't have a name, so we went looking for a name. Oh, so I asked my grandson, so what would you call your shadow? He goes, M.E.Ch.A. So we named it M.E.Ch.A. I says, of all the weird things, he came up with a French name. He called it M.E.Ch.A. And then all three of them are jumping, and then he looks up around and he says, oh, where's my last name? So continue reading the life stories of Zacatepecin as he grows up in the middle of the 14th century in the valley of Teotihuacan. So it's a story that tells about all of that, but we need storytellers. We need people to write those books. There's some books that are out there, but they hint about it. You know, some Octavio Paz, you know, when he talks about his idea of the Mexicano identity or the Mexican identity, he speaks about that. There's a book called Aztec Thought and Culture by Leon Portilla that you can read. And also, aside from that, the Book of the Aztecs, you know, so these are books that I've used as resources to tell the stories, and as well as you know, just trying to study as much as possible the different stories, los gobernantes de Mexico, Aztecas, you know. And then I do have one, you know, one that I use, The Daily Lives of the Aztecs by, I forget his name, the author, but The Daily Lives of the Aztecs. And he's a French writer. And as Fermin Herrera, one of the professors from Northridge, who taught Nahuatl language, he's the one that got us to learn how to read and decipher Nahuatl itself. So it's important for people to study the different codices. I've been, you know, just buying codices and trying to study and decipher the hieroglyphic writings. And so those are some of the books that I would recommend, but the core ones they're not really out there, and they need writers. So we need you to write it. Okay.
Thank you. We have a lot of people saying thank you, Professor Gamboa, for thank you for inviting Javier Gomez. Thank you, M.E.Ch.A, for putting on this event, the speaker. It was fantastic. We would love we would love to hear you do a narrative of your book. Have you done that yet?
Oh, you want me to read a little bit of something on it? Okay, sure. I'll just read you this is my book right here. This is Mr. G's Battle Cry, and it's just to let you guys know, I had a 13-year-old niece from Texas who wanted to know if I was a hippie in the 60s. If I marched in protest marches throughout Mexico, the United States. And what did I do? Was I in any protest marches? And so I answered her little question with 20 pages, and that served as the outline for this book. And what she made me think about was, wow, what did I do? How did I do all of those things that I did? You know, and so I feel very blessed that in 1969 I got to meet Cesar Chavez. And what he did to me was he pointed to me and he went, I need you, Rubicela, I need you to be my champion. I need you to go back to your schools. I need you, Lisa, to go to your communities, become that leader, empower others, give hope to others. And when I was only 19 years old, I saw him and he pointed at us. And for the past 47 years, I've been running the M.E.Ch.A Cultural Arts Center, doing exactly what he asked us to do, and that is to create centers of culture, to instill dignity and pride and hope in our children so that they will be empowered when they grow up as individuals to have the dignity and the self-respect for themselves where no one can deny them their destiny. And that is the power of what this book's about, of what he did. And so when he anointed me, and I'm anointing all of you that are listening, and I'm pointing to all of you, I'm asking you to be the champions to your community, to be the ones who will make the difference, who will champion others, and will not think about yourself, but think of the benefit to your community and to your family and to your surroundings, to your M.E.Ch.A. And so let me just read you just a little bit of what I wrote about it, just so that you can get an understanding of it. This manuscript is a tribute to all the inspirational men and women and youth who joined in March in el gran movimiento chicano of La Causa to demand justice and equality in fighting against the racial divide of bigotry and discrimination that existed throughout America. This manuscript came to life as a consequence to a profound question posed by my 13-year-old niece, Nia Lopez from Texas. Her curiosity focused in trying to understand the lifestyle of the hippie phenomena in the 1960s and 70s. In addition to better understand what protest marches and activities occurred in that time period, she unleashed in me a hailstorm of flashback memories of the many explosive riots, luchas, marches, and activities I participated with. In retrospect, as I recall my past life, I am baffled and amazed by the immense perils we faced in overcoming an explosive, lopsided era in a quest for equality and justice. I was blessed to be born in an era of great enlightenment. Mr. G's battle cry, La Causa de la Raza Wants You, is a cultural revolution relived, sparking an illuminating response to an innocent inquiry by my niece, Nia Lopez. Were you a hippie, part of the hippie movement of the 1960s? What were your views on culture? How did you get along? How did you get involved? What protests did you participate in? And so, like I said, I was fortunate, and I was born in that generation, and I continue to this very day, and as a community activist, working with organizations to help empower, plant seeds, and to sit back and to say with pride and honor that, oh, wow, they're celebrating Dia de los Muertos in Ventura? Oh, awesome. Oh, they're doing it at Ventura College? They're doing it at Oxnard College? They're doing it at Conejo Mountain? They're doing it at the Harley Davidson motorcycles in Camarillo? Wow, that is awesome, you know, and friends who have followed my life, my history, and what I've done, they often tell me the same thing. Says, Javier, mira, sin ti no todas estas cosas no hubieran surgido. So one person can make a difference. Cesar Chavez made a difference. Nia made a difference. I don't know if you guys recognize who this person is right here. That's Mayo de la Rocha. Mayo de la Rocha, his brother, who, and that's me next to Mayo. Together we marched in the first Chicano moratorium that was held to protest the war in Vietnam. So can we make a difference? We all can make a difference. And it's just how we voice and how we empower ourselves. And it doesn't, we don't have to wait until, as young as we are, we can start. And as old as we are, we can start. You know, and I'm proud, Lisa, that you worked a lifetime. Now you went back to college to empower yourself. That's the whole goal. That's the whole movement of La Causa. We all have to learn how to join La Causa, because La Causa is what is the struggle of today and how are we going to participate? That is what Cesar Chavez always talked about. It wasn't not only about pesticides. Yeah, it's about pesticides. Yeah, it's about education. Yeah, it's about our dreamers. Yeah, it's about the racism. Yes, it's about voting in our upcoming election. Yes, it's about standing up for the weak. Yes, it's about respecting each other, for looking at our brothers who might have a different sexual way of expressing themselves, or you know, I mean, for us to embrace each other's differences and to give hope to everybody and to empower everybody, you know. And my quest has always been to empower my wife to believe that she is powerful, that she has an important role, that she's my compañera, arm in arm, and we walk together as one, not as, you know, Javier, you know, you're the one, you know. Even though when I'm in a circle, people will first gravitate to me, or when my kids are playing music, the news reporters will come to me, and I usually tell them, talk to the niños, talk to the kids. They'll tell you what we're doing, and they'll express, they have an opinion, you know. And I think that that's what we have to do. And that's the role of a maestra, you know, a tlamatini, is to put that face and heart to our students, our momastianis. And for you as students, be a true momastiani, one who creates yourself. Take what your maestros have given you and learn how to empower yourself. Seek and realize your full potential in life.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted, before I pass it to Lisa Marie, I just want to say thank you. Every year we have asked Javier Gomez to present for M.E.Ch.A and Dia de los Muertos, and always lovingly and openly accepts that invitation. And thank you again for doing it now in this new kind of way of communicating. And I just, from my behalf, I want to say how much you are an inspiration to us and to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And yes, I want to echo that, Javier. Thank you very much for that enlightening, inspirational story in the journey that you've shared with us. As we're going to take the challenge, and that's part of the purpose of M.E.Ch.A, is to encourage the cultural education, to learn as much as we can about our culture and to spread that education. We are involved in civic engagement and political activism, all for social justice, for inclusion for everybody. So I thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Muchas
Thank you.
gracias.
Okay.
And for everybody else on this call, I invite you all, to those of you who aren't members right now, to join our M.E.Ch.A meetings. We have them every Tuesday. It's the same Zoom link that you got on for this presentation. We are inclusive. We take everybody. It's to learn about the Chicano culture, but also to share that Chicano culture and to share the political activism, as I said. Learn and share. That's part of our education. So I encourage you all to come back next Tuesday. And with that, I close our presentation. Muchas gracias, Javier, again. And thank you,
Pleasure.
Rubicela. She has been an excellent mentor for our M.E.Ch.A, and Mayo was her mentor. I found out, and Mayo was one of my professors back in the 70s. So it all goes full circle.
Oh,
Thank you.
definitely. Él es Dios.
I've also included the video clips of Dia de los Muertos that Javier Gomez has put together in the chat. So you can copy those links and you can watch those. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bueno, hasta la muerte.
Adios. Hasta la muerte.
Hasta la muerte.
Celebration of life and death. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Mucho cuidado, señores, porque la muerte anda lista. En el panteón de Dolores ya nos tiene una cosita para los compositores.